Asset lifecycle management and the Internet of Things. It's about as timely a topic as you can find. And here to speak with us about it today is Ralph Rio, Research Director at ARC Advisory Group. Ralph, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Ralph, well, obviously we're speaking with each other at the annual ARC World Forum, and of course a major theme here this year is the Internet of Things. Well, I wish you would talk with us now, walk us through how that affects asset management. What's the future, if you will, of that?
Let me first just kind of introduce the subject of the Internet of Things.
Let's do that.
Because we tend to talk about it in very high-level, broad terms, and it gets confusing fast. Our smartphones, and I happen to have a Blu-ray player that represents things that have the Internet of Things in them. Your smartphone knows its health, knows its status. It is connected to the internet, to a network. It happens to be through cellular network. My Wi-Fi player, and many of them, it's a $100 Wi-Fi player, is attached to the internet via Wi-Fi. And it has software in it that can report on its health, tell some equipment manufacturer or some central location about its health, and as a result, they can take corrective action if something's going bad. For example, my Wi-Fi player, last time I turned it on, automatically updated its software. All right, so those are examples of things that are really connected to the internet, and central site can monitor its health, and by monitoring its health, can improve the asset life cycle of the device.
Well, clearly that's something that's going on in one's personal life when you talk about the player. But asset management, of course, we're now looking at the world of the enterprise here. So let's talk about asset management and IoT. Where are we going with that?
Yeah. So we've got technology that is in our consumer products, and you have huge economies of scale. For example, my $100 Blu-ray player has got Wi-Fi capability in it, software in it, Internet of Things. If you can afford to put in a $100 device, you certainly can put it in a $5,000 or a $10,000 machine, and add huge capability, huge benefits around monitoring the health of that piece of equipment and predicting when something's going to go bad. And by predicting that failure, you can then prevent it. And instead of having unplanned, horrible, ugly, unplanned downtime, you can now plan when to take it offline to do the repair. So it becomes expected rather than unexpected.
Interesting, horrible and ugly, you said, and no doubt expensive downtime because of the consequences that flow from something like that. But so is that really what it all boils down to? Is this simply an issue of downtime? Is that what it's about?
In a nutshell, if you look at what GE is talking about it in terms of its industrial internet, what IBM is talking about with Smart Planet, and Cisco and a few other people with their programs, it boils down to monitoring the health of the asset and being able to prevent a failure and have higher uptime and higher reliability of that equipment. Yes, in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Well, let's walk through that. I mean, obviously downtime is very important. It's a critical thing here. But let's talk about the implications of it a little bit more specifically. What's so wrong with downtime?
Okay, when it's unplanned, a bunch of bad things happen. First, I'll just talk about the cost of the failure, cost of repairing the machine. So usually a component fails, but if it's not predicted when it fails, that can easily cascade into a much bigger issue. And I'll just use the example of your car. If you run out of oil, the bearings start to melt, the engine seizes, and you have to replace the engine. So for lack of $20 worth of oil, you have a $5,000 engine repair. For lack of $20 of oil, which takes a few minutes to fill, now you're out without a car for maybe a week at a time, all right? So there's a huge implication in terms of the cost of the failure. Also, the second thing is that when the equipment breaks unplanned, particularly the continuous process industries, all the work in process materials become waste because you stop the process, you can't continue the process, the equipment the materials like you normally would, they become, so you have huge losses in materials. This is also a problem in the pharmaceutical industries where there's time sequencing there that's very important. And the third thing is that you lose production, which means there's an impact on revenue, customer satisfaction, and it does boil into shareholder value. It has huge effects on the business.
So what you're arguing really it boils down to is that enterprise asset management software is critical. Without it, the ramifications can be absolutely catastrophic.
Yes, yes. I'll give you examples of the key performance indicators of a typical maintenance management person. Number one is, of course, equipment uptime. And the Internet of Things would play very well with that, making him or her much more able to meet their key performance indicator around uptime. The second thing is asset longevity. If they don't have to replace the asset, it lasts longer, they don't have to replace it, then that conserves cash, and the financial metrics of the firm are much better. So you want to maintain it well. The Internet of Things helps you monitor its health to maintain it well so it lasts longer. Third thing is safety. If you're, particularly in a refinery, if you're boiling oil and equipment fails at the wrong time, you've got very volatile chemicals around, bad things can happen, winds up on the evening news, and it's definitely not good for your career.
Career impact. Right.
And then the third item is around just controlling costs. So there is a cost associated with doing maintenance, and they've got to be able to manage that cost. They need the visibility to see what's going on so they can properly allocate the resources they have.
Distinguish for us, though, the difference between the asset management software that we've been talking about and field service management. What really is the critical difference there?
Yeah, usually asset management is focused on assets that were inside a site of a particular plant. In case of a refinery, of course, the site's pretty large, and there are things outside of the building, but it's usually within a site or a building. Field service starts to deal with assets that are on your customer's site. And usually now you have to travel to the customer, and different types of functions start to become more important. And those functions have to do with things like route optimization of the field service technician, keeping track of the inventory that's in their trucks so that you send them to sites that they can actually do the repair on, and things like that.
Ralph, final question to you. We're talking about the importance of IoT, Internet of Things, and as it relates to this vital area of asset management, but how theoretical is this conversation? I know the technology is there. How widespread is the kind of connectivity that we're talking about, and where do you see it going in the next couple of years or so?
Yeah, this Internet of Things is one of those things that really could change everything about asset management and maintenance. And right now, there is a lot of companies that are starting to embed that technology into their equipment. It is not broadly available in the marketplace to end users quite yet. So we're at the very early stages of the adoption of Internet of Things in industrial type applications. People talk about the connected car. There aren't many. Telsa has a connected car. There aren't many of them available yet, but we know that that's going to be coming more broadly available very quickly, and that also applies to equipment too. And I said it could change everything. Well, right now, most maintenance departments most industrial companies have a maintenance department precisely because of the unplanned downtime. Mm-hmm. They can't wait several days or a week for the OEM manufacturer to send a field service person to repair it. They've got to repair it right now. So as a result, they have their own maintenance department. If we think further in the future with the Internet of Things, where you could have planned downtime, no surprises, if that nirvana could really be achieved, you wouldn't have an internal maintenance department anymore. You'd look to your OEM to do it. They know the equipment much better than you could ever possibly know it, and they can do the maintenance much better than you can. But right now, you don't, because it's a time sequence issue. You can't wait for them. When it's planned, they can do it. You can start talking about, so that's one example of changing everything. If I could go a little further, I'd like to also talk about the supply chain side of it. When, right now, when it's unplanned, you need to have spare parts readily available. You know, you can't wait several days for shipping of a part to your plant. So as a result, manufacturers have a lot of spare parts, and OEM equipment manufacturers who service their equipment have a lot of spare parts in their supply chain. Huge inventory on site, and they often have depots which can quickly backfill that inventory when it's used. And it's all there because of unplanned downtime. Now, if you convert to being planned, now you can wait for shipment. You know you're going to do that repair in a day or two. FedEx takes a day. You can now have your inventory, your spare parts inventory in a central depot, consolidate it, all right? You don't need near as much inventory anymore because now multiple plants can share the same inventory, and you can ship it. There's a potential for not only huge ramifications in terms of how we maintain our equipment, but also it directly affects the supply chain, much more optimized, reduce inventory, take cash from take inventory, convert it to cash. Another aspects that would vastly improve the financial metrics of a firm and increase shareholder value.
Benefits are immense, absolutely immense. What I'm hearing is that we need to be in the vanguard and to be early adopters of this technology. Ralph, thank you so much for this look into this vital and important area. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's Ralph Rio, ARC Advisory Group, and speaking with us today about asset lifecycle management and the Internet of Things. Thank you for watching.